Welcome back to NTV News First Edition. Okay, I have some questions for you. Do you remember in vivid detail where you were for the moon landing? Maybe you're too young. Kennedy assassination, Challenger explosion, the death of Princess Diana? How about 9/11? What about COVID and COVID lockdowns? Or on a more personal note, do you remember your first kiss, the birth of your child, your favorite concert? Why do we have such specific and vivid memories of both personal and world events? And are they as accurate as we think they are? Well, here to discuss all of that is Dr. Janine Hubbard with a pretty interesting episode of this week's Get Psyched. Great to see you again.
Well, likewise, and I'm hoping this is just going to generate some fun discussion for people after the segment.
I actually do remember the moon landing. I know, how old am I? I was only 3, but I do remember my family sitting around watching it. At least, I think I'm remembering it. And we're going to get into if our memories are accurate or not, I guess, in a little bit later in this discussion. But, it's been 5 years.
Yep. And I think that's what prompted my interest in it this week, is because I've been having, again, recollections of some vivid memories. So for fun fact, 5 years ago today, you and I did our first COVID-related interview. We were supposed to be talking about Friday the 13th and superstitions, and very quickly kind of went, I think we need to change our topic. And it's so funny looking at some of these. Same thing. I can tell you exactly. Well, I had flown to Toronto and I'd seen Hamilton, and I flew back and the world imploded. But I killed my 10-year-old car on a Friday. And on the Monday, March 23rd, I was sitting in the dealership looking at the options that maybe I could order in, and the word came down that said everything is closing. And the sales guy and I just looked at each other and went, okay, what's on the lot? So my car is 5 this week or next week. Yay. No, I mean, we all have these, again, whether it's personal ones or whether it is these shared collective memories, but they seem to us, at least, to be so much more vivid, so much clearer than so many of our other memories. That it's a fun thing to kind of talk about, because we kind of wonder, well, why does that happen? And we can talk, I mean, we're just scratching the surface about how memory forms. And then, is it actually accurate?
Is it accurate?
Well, there's some thought that memories, because we have tons and tons of information that comes into our brains on a daily basis, how much of it we encode and decide to keep in short-term memory, and then how much of that goes into our long-term memory stores, depends on a lot of things. So in this case, it tends to be something that has a strong emotional impact. It's often very sudden, unexpected, dramatic. And we kind of have a sense that this is going to have like major societal impact, or for us maybe some personal impact, like that first kiss you were talking about. Right. But what we have also found is, it's funny, we have really a lot of confidence in just how accurate our memories are of these flashbulb moments. And actually, the research shows that they're probably encoded strongly, and they get reinforced because we talk about the stories or we see the images, and it helps to kind of reinforce the memory in our brains. But in reality, at best, it's maybe 75, 64%, depending on the studies, and that decreases over time. So the longer ago the episode was, the fuzzier some of our details get, but our confidence in those details doesn't change.
Well, then why? You mentioned something to me earlier today, quite fascinating. It's called the Mandela effect.
Yes.
So what is it, and why does it happen?
Oh, this is fascinating. Luke, I am your father. Guess what? That's not the line. Same as play it again, Sam. Not the line. We have this phenomena where there are an awful lot of collective misinformation or missed memories. And it's something that's kind of been studied. It started with someone who had assumed that Nelson Mandela had died in prison back in the 1980s, and at the time realized, oh, wait, no, he's alive and well and, taking on great new responsibilities. But then was surprised to discover how many other people shared that belief. And so some of it, again, has to do with how we encode memories, what we share. And what we're finding there is that sometimes, especially with the example of like the movie lines, how often do you hear something quoted versus how often do you go back and watch the original source and go, oh, that's not right. And certainly we've seen a dramatic increase in these kind of false shared memories with the introduction of the internet, because you get memes and things that just perpetuate the inaccuracy in that memory. So again, I'm hoping, listen, it's a lousy evening out there. Have a chat with your friends and your loved ones tonight and kind of either try to go through a shared memory that see how different your versions are, and then have some fun with the, oh, wait, that's not actually accurate. If you Google Mandela effect, you'll find some great examples. And you know what? It's a fun activity to do on a snowy evening.
Have you ever, sat with siblings and said, oh my gosh, remember the time when we were kids and this happened? And they kind of look at you and say, that's not really how it happened. Well, it did.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Listen, my mother and I have this on a fairly regular basis. I actually had this with my sister saying, here's the cast and here's the show that we saw on Broadway. She's like, no, we didn't see that. That wasn't these people. Fortunately, I could Google and go, look, here's the program. This is actually who we saw. It was Samuel L. Jackson. So thank heavens occasionally for, Google to verify at least a few things for you.
All right, Dr. Hubbard, thank you so much for this. It's been a lot of fun.
Thanks.
All right. And we are going